owning an Elan can be a lot cheaper than it sounds. Hello and welcome to another video. Today, as you can see, I am working on my NA. Difficult start problem, so keeps on cranking and doesn't start. Now that I'm filming, it probably will start straight away. So I'm gonna just turn the key and see what happens. Okay, so that wasn't what I wanted to show you, but it was good enough to show you that it takes a bit of spinning for it to start. Now, this is because I already fixed the car, so it's a bit difficult to unfix it. So I'm gonna try to start it again and see if I can better show you the issue. So, as usual, when the camera is rolling, you can't show what you're trying to show. But hopefully, you will hear it skipping a bit every now and then. Well, it's quite obvious that this car isn't camera shy, so I'm gonna have to help it not start. Okay, so I've been trying for a while, and I can't reproduce the issue unless I actually cause some damage to parts of the car, which they were damaged originally, but I remedied that and then they damaged over time. So instead of showing you a car that doesn't start, which clearly I don't have at the moment, I'm gonna describe to you what the issue was when I had the issue, and then how I diagnosed it and how I fixed it. The car would crank forever, it wouldn't start. Well, it would actually start, but after a certain amount of cranking. And the first thing that I did was I could smell petrol. So I knew that it was something to do with the sparks because there was petrol. So petrol was flowing, you could smell it, so it was getting into the engine. There was either no air or no sparks. Now, no air, it's very difficult to not have enough air in the engine, so it's less likely. So I just looked for the sparks. And here's what I've done. So I have one of these, a timing gun. Now, it says professional because, you know, it sounds better for marketing reasons, but this is actually the cheapest timing gun you can buy. Now, the funny thing about using timing guns on the Elan is that they're supposed to be connected to the battery, but as you can see, these leads won't get to the battery. So, I took a spare battery, connected my timing gun to the battery, and then started checking if there was spark on every single cylinder. And as my brother was turning the key, I just waited to see sparks. And there wasn't any sparks on 3 cylinders. And one of the cylinders was only sparking sporadically. I knew there was a problem with sparks because there was no flashes, or there was barely any flashes. And there was just not enough sparks to start the car. Now, once the car starts, the voltage that the car runs at increases from the 12 volts of the battery to the 14 volts that the alternator outputs. And that increase in voltage is enough to make sparks more regular. So once the car started, it was running just fine because the alternator was giving extra juice that was getting power through. So that is also a sign that there is an issue somewhere in the delivery of the power. And this is just putting pieces together by sitting in the armchair and knowing that flashes weren't happening. So with that in mind, I started looking for issues around the distributor. Maybe the wires were damaged. Now, plugs usually don't get damaged, but it can happen. But distributors do wear out over time. So that's where I went to, and I got my original distributor running here, and I will show you what the issue was. So here we have a close-up shot of the distributor on the NA. Now, if you have an SE, which is the most common version, you don't have this. So this is a very, very specific video for people who have the naturally aspirated Elan. If you have an MGF, it also works with a distributor. There's a lot of cars that work with a distributor, actually. So it's valuable for cars with distributors, just not for most Elans. Anyway, so the issue was that most of these lines were not getting sparks. So what I've done was number them so that I could connect everything back together. So there, I don't have a specific order, so I just put 1, 2, 3, 4, and then there's the power going in with that. So I'm going to disconnect the battery so that I don't get hurt. So the first thing that you can do is just take a closer look. So what I've done was just unplug every single one of the leads and inspect the connections. And what you don't see now, and unfortunately it's because I have cleaned it, but some of these connections were very corroded, and particularly this one, the one that feeds power to everything, was extremely corroded. And all I had to do to get my car starting straight away was just use a little bit of sandpaper and clean all of these connections. So remove all the rust, and then it started straight away. So that is what I've done to get the car starting straight away, and that's all fine. Now, the diagnostics process was simple. Now, if you get to this point and you find that these are not corroded, what you can do is open the distributor. Once you got the distributor cap out, you can just inspect its terminals internally. Now, you probably can see that there's a bit of junk here that needs to be cleaned, but the terminals themselves are not rusted. Now, this is because, again, I've cleaned them. If you can see this one particularly well, if you can see this one, it's actually a tiny bit corroded already. Now, that particular one was very corroded, so I also had to clean that. And, yeah. So what you're seeing is effectively a distributor that was malfunctioning, that has been sanded out all of the corrosion to the point of the car starting and not being good for showing a video. But the point is that the distributor cap is one thing that you can look at, and if you just need to get it back on the road, sandpaper is all you need to actually get your car to start again. Another bit that may fail is the rotor arm itself. So this bit here is what it spins and then connects with each one of the leads to do the spark. So maybe you need to replace that. This one isn't particularly rusted anyway, so connections are good with that. So once you've just removed the rust from this and sanded it down, you can put everything back together, plug all of the leads in the correct order, and you should be able to start the car. If after going through all of this, things still don't work and you don't get a spark, well, I would suggest swapping the leads, and particularly the main lead that feeds them all, which is here. This is the one that comes from behind over there. Okay, so that's the process of diagnosing a difficult start on the NA. Sandpaper is enough to get the car to start. Then what I should do, and I have done, is to purchase a new distributor. Now, the point of this video really is saving money. When you own an Elan, you don't have to splash out money. So, if you just keep using sandpaper, you can use this distributor for quite a long time and keep the car running and everything is fine. And, you know, every time it starts to struggle to start, you just come back, sand bits a bit, and that's it. I mean, you probably will need to sand it a bit every other month or maybe every month, or it just gets worse over time. So it's always better to buy a distributor cap. But this diagnosis that I've showed you, it's pretty straightforward. But if you drop your car in a garage, you will be charged 70 quid an hour. So 70 quid for a diagnosis, and then depending on what type of garage you have, the owner of the garage may just sand the bits, give you the car and say, you need a distributor cap, here the car, took me half an hour to do this, so I'll charge you 35 quid, I'm not going to charge you for sanding the terminals, and here's your car running. That's one type of garage that you will find. He will tell you that, you know, it will start failing in a couple of months because it's just the nature of corrosion. A different type of garage would charge you half an hour for diagnostics, and then go to PMN because it's the UK supplier, it's a reliable source. Buy from there, put their markup, replace the distributor cap, and you'd have easily 2 hours work in that business as a whole. If they don't charge you for the research time, then you'd have an hour, maybe an hour and a half of them charging you for the task. But the bottom line is, this would be easily more than £100 of a bill when I have fixed it for myself for temporarily, completely for free with sandpaper, and permanently with £8 from Rock Auto. I hope that this video was helpful for you. I know the NA as a distributor, there's only 300 NAs. It's probably not going to help a lot of Elan owners. But the point is, if you do your research and you work yourself in the car, you can save yourself a fortune. Effectively, depending on the garage you would go to, they would charge you for a whole hour because they can't charge you less than an hour at a time. So they would be charging you 70 quid just to diagnose it, and then they would probably charge you for the second hour to do the replacement because it's two jobs. They wouldn't have a distributor for the Isuzu in hand. So if you would be charged for 2 hours, that is 140 quid, plus distributor for another 40 quid, 180 quid. And, you know, it's a lot of money for what, to me, cost me £8. It's a big difference. So the point with this video is really that owning an Elan can be a lot cheaper than it sounds. And I have to thank the whole community of the Lotus Elan Central for effectively tutoring me on how to look after a car, how to diagnose issues with a car, and how to repair a car. Without that community, you wouldn't have these videos. So if you don't know about them, just go there. The forum is free to join. We are a community of Elan enthusiasts, and yes, I can tell you that within that community, the knowledge about the Elan is better than any garage in the UK. And I include specialists, because let's face it, this community exclusively knows about the Elan, where any specialist garage knows about Lotuses in general. They will see the older Elans more often than they see these Elans, just because of the sheer amount of numbers out there. And particularly with naturally aspirated. There will be specialist garages that never seen one in their life. So yeah, go join LEC, and I hope to see you in the next video, where I will be taking the money that I saved by fixing this, and I will be using it on this box of stuff. It's a box from Rock Auto. There are pieces here that are not from Rock Auto. The contents of this box are roughly £60, maybe a little bit more. Things have been purchased in different places. Some things were bought in one of the most common retailers of car parts. They're not the best price. Rock Auto actually does a better price. I didn't know about it. I learned about it after I bought these spark plugs. Leads can be bought from PM Engineering. If you go on eBay, you will find Mr. Retro leads, who supplied mine, which are actually a British racing green. And I have used Mr. Retro leads in my other car, so I can assure you that those leads work, and he's also cheaper than other places. And it just feels good to know that a small business offers a better price than a big business, and a product just as good. I hope you have learned a thing from this. I hope you joined LEC, and I will see you in the next video.